The forensic psych ward didn't look like the rest of the hospital. The lights were dimmer, the walls were scuffed, and every door had more locks than felt necessary. Cameras watched every angle. The air smelled like disinfectant and old fear. It was just before 7 p.m. when Lena, a relatively new night shift nurse, scanned her badge at the double doors and heard the heavy click of the lock releasing. A security guard buzzed her in without even looking up from his phone. "Knight Collins," he muttered. "Knight," she answered, stepping into the unit. Report was done at a small, enclosed nurses' station with reinforced glass. The day nurse looked exhausted in that particular psych ward way, like someone who had listened to too many people talk to things the rest of the world couldn't see. They went over the usual assignments: room numbers, diagnoses, suicide risk levels, PRN meds. Then the day nurse hesitated. "And you've got room 19 tonight," she said. "Okay," Lena replied, waiting. "Forensic hold. High risk. He's on 1-to-1, but we use the camera for that after midnight when staffing drops." "Name?" "Carter Blake," the nurse said quietly, like the name itself carried weight. She slid a separate, thin folder across the counter. It was labeled in red: "Restricted access, Carter B." "You won't see his full file," the day nurse added. "Most of it's sealed. Just know this: do not be alone with him with the door shut. Ever. And if restraints are on, you document every check like your license depends on it. Because it does." Lena flipped the folder open. The printed summary on top was brief and intentionally vague. Male, 42. History of extreme violence. Multiple homicide charges. Psychotic episodes with religious and command hallucinations. Known for manipulation, high intelligence, and prior escape attempts in other facilities. No details. No crime scene descriptions. Just enough to say, "This one is different." "Has he ever attacked staff here?" Lena asked. "No," the day nurse said. "Not directly. He's polite. Mostly. Talks soft. He'll ask you questions about your life like he's known you for years. The problem with Carter is not what he's done in this building." "Then what is it?" "What follows him," the nurse replied. Before Lena could ask what that meant, the charge nurse slid in, efficient and brisk. "Night shift starting. Mikots redu. Rounds every 15, suicide checks every 15 in the green corridor, every 7 in the red. Room 19 is technically red, but he's in 4-point restraints tonight, so follow the restraint protocol." She lowered her voice. "And if anything feels off in there, you call one of us. Don't try to handle him alone just to prove you can." Lena nodded, tucking the restricted folder under her arm. The walk to room 19 felt longer than it was. The corridor was quiet, the other patients behind their doors. Some mumbling, some laughing to themselves, some silent. Cameras in the corners blinked small red lights. Room 19's door was heavier than the others. A reinforced window sat at eye level. The small nameplate read simply, "B. Carter." Inside, the room looked like every other psych room. Bed bolted to the floor, no sharp edges, nothing that could be broken or turned into a weapon. But the man on the bed did not look like everyone else. Carter lay on his back, wrists and ankles secured by thick, padded restraints clipped to the frame. He wore standard hospital-issue scrubs, but he somehow made them look tailored. His hair was dark, threaded with gray, his eyes a calm, unsettling blue. He turned his head as Lena stepped into view. "You must be the new night nurse," he said, voice soft, almost gentle. "I'm Lena," she replied, keeping her tone professional. "I'll be taking care of you tonight." She checked the restraints automatically. 2 fingers under each cuff. Snug, but not cutting. Skin intact. No swelling. The restraint log clipped to the bed rail showed initials from day shift every 15 minutes. Neat and on time. "I don't bite," Carter said, watching her. "Not anymore. Policy's the same for everyone," she answered. "If restraints are ordered, I check them. That's all." He smiled, a slow, knowing smile. "They only send new ones to me," he said. "The others don't like staying in this room for long on nights. Something about the cameras." Lena ignored that. She took his vitals. Normal. She asked the required questions. Pain, discomfort, thoughts of hurting himself or others. He answered each one politely, clearly, like someone who had done this countless times. "Do you hear any voices right now?" she asked. "Just yours," he said. Then, after a beat, "And the ones behind you." She turned reflexively. There was nothing there, just the reinforced door, the narrow window, and the faint reflection of her own face in the glass. "You're jumpy," Carter observed. "Fair. They don't tell you everything about me on the first night. They wait until you've already done a few shifts. By then, it's harder to transfer out." She finished her assessment and noted the time on the restraint form. "I'll be back in 15 minutes to check your circulation again," she said. "You'll be back in less than that," he replied, closing his eyes. "Right after you hear it." On her way back to the nurse's station, Lena stopped by the monitor room, a small side space with a wall of screens, each one showing live camera feeds from different patient rooms. Room 19's feed showed Carter lying perfectly still, arms and legs outstretched at precise angles, restraints visible, chest rising and falling slowly. The tech on duty glanced up. "New with Carter?" he asked. "First night," Lena said. "Anything I should know?" "Yeah," he answered, spinning his chair a little closer to the screens. "If you see him move on the camera, that's normal. If you see him move in person and the camera shows him still, call someone." Lena frowned. "That's a joke, right?" "I work nights in Psych," he said. "We stopped joking about room 19 a while ago." Lena told herself it was just Psych ward superstition. Every unit had its stories. ICU had the bed no one survived. Pediatrics had the toy that turned on by itself. Psych had the patient everyone swore was different. Still, when she walked back toward room 19 for the first 15-minute check, her hand was a little tighter on the pen clipped to her clipboard. The small observation window showed exactly what she expected to see. Carter on his back, arms slightly out, secured, legs straight, restrained, head turned a little toward the door, eyes closed. She opened the door just enough to slip inside, the security magnet clicking softly behind her. "Restraint check," she said, more for herself than for him. He opened his eyes, calm and alert. "Already?" he asked. "You're punctual. I like that." She started with his right wrist, 2 fingers between skin and cuff. No redness beyond what she'd seen before. Left wrist the same, ankles the same. She documented circulation, skin condition, mental status. "Any pain?" she asked. "Only in places you can't chart," he replied. She didn't engage. She wrote the time 1942 on the restraint log and initialed the line. "I'll be back in 15, she repeated. "You'll be back in 11, he said quietly. "Right after you hear it." She paused. "Hear what?" "You'll know," he said. She stepped out, the door closing with a solid mechanical latch. The next few minutes were filled with the usual night shift noise. Med passes on the lower risk patients, someone laughing too loud at the TV in the common room, distant shouting from another hallway followed by staff voices soothing, redirecting. Back at the nurse's station, Lena began charting her assessments. She acknowledged a few PRN requests, signed off on a med she watched another nurse administer, and kept half an eye on the clock. 1953. The unit suddenly went quieter. She couldn't say why. Conversations died down. The TV volume seemed to drop, even though no one had touched the remote. The air felt thicker, like the building itself was holding its breath. Somewhere down the hall, something metallic hit the floor with a sharp clang. Every head at the station snapped up. "What was that?" one of the techs asked. "Sounded like from Red Corridor," another said. "Red Corridor, where room 19 was." Lena was already moving. Her shoes squeaked once on the polished floor before she slowed herself, forcing her pace back to something resembling professional urgency instead of panic. Room 17 quiet. Room 18 muttering, nothing thrown. Room 19, she stopped dead at the window. The restraints were still attached to the bed. Carter was not lying in them. He was still secured, technically. His wrists and ankles remained fastened to the frame, but his body had shifted into a different position entirely, twisted onto his side, facing the door, arms bent at angles that should have been impossible with how she'd left the straps. He watched her from the bed, eyes calm, as if he'd simply rolled over in his sleep. "You came back in 11 minutes, he said softly. "Like I told you." Lena opened the door, forcing her voice level. "You're not supposed to be able to move that much," she said. "The restraints are designed to prevent exactly this." "Maybe they're not designed for me," he replied. She checked each restraint again, more carefully this time. Nothing was loose. The buckles were secure. The padding sat exactly where she had placed it. There were no signs of tearing, no tricks with twisted fabric or slipped loops. His arms had clearly changed position. Her own initials, staring up from the log, felt like they were accusing her of missing something. "Did you help him move?" she asked later at the station. "Who, Carter?" One of the techs scoffed. "I'm not going in there unless I have to, and never alone." Lena went to the monitor room again. On the screen labeled R19, the recording from the last 15 minutes played back. It showed Carter lying on his back, and staying that way, no shift to his side, no tug against the restraints, no movement beyond the slow rise and fall of his chest. His eyes closed the entire time. She rewound and watched again. In person, she had seen him rolled on his shoulder, head angled toward the door, arms bent as if he'd turned over to watch her. On the camera, he was a still, restrained figure, exactly where she'd left him after the first check. "You see it?" the monitor tech asked quietly beside her. "He moved," Lena said. "I saw him." "On the camera?" "No, in the room." The tech leaned back in his chair. "Yeah," he said. "That's the problem everyone has." The next 15-minute check, Lena brought another nurse with her. This time, when they peered through the window, Carter was again on his back, arms and legs straight, textbook restraint posture. They went in together. Both checked the straps. Both verified the position. Both saw the same thing. "Satisfied?" her coworker asked as they left. "For now," Lena answered. At the next check, Lena went back alone. Carter was on his side again, restraints unchanged, his eyes already open, staring at the door like he'd been waiting for her. "You keep expecting the camera to tell the truth," he said calmly. "But cameras only show what they're allowed to show." Lena wrote the time, 20:29, and for the first time that night, her hand shook just enough to leave a small, shaky tail on one of the numbers. By 11 p.m., Lena had started to dread the clock more than the patient. The rest of the unit felt almost normal. Someone was arguing with the TV in room 11. A woman in 14 was singing an off-key lullaby to no one. A man in 16 was pacing his room in tight, endless circles. But every time the digital clock at the nurse's station rolled over another 15-minute mark, Lena's mind went back to room 19. He shouldn't be able to move that much. The restraints are on. The camera says he didn't. On her third or fourth trip to the monitor room, the tech didn't even wait for her to ask. "Room 19 again?" he said. "Just roll the last 15, Lena replied. The recording showed what it always did, Carter, flat on his back. Not rolling, not twisting, not even turning his head. "The system's not glitched," the tech said. "We've had maintenance in here 3 times. They checked the wiring, the recording server, the timestamps. Everything is clean." "Then why do people keep saying he moves when the camera says he doesn't?" she asked. "Because they walk in and find him someplace he shouldn't be able to get to," the tech replied. "And the video says they're wrong." He paused, then added more quietly, "We had a nurse try to report it once, wrote up a whole incident. Restraints intact, position drastically changed. Video doesn't match physical assessment. Admin called it fatigue and documentation error. She transferred out a week later. Back on the unit, the charge nurse called for safety rounds in the red corridor. 2 staff walking together, checking every high-risk door, confirming each patient was breathing, talking, or at least still physically present. Lena and a tech named Ramon took the clipboard. "Room 15. Fine. Room 17. Fine. Room 18. Fine. They stopped at room 19 last. Behind the window, Carter lay perfectly still on his back again. Restraints neat, head centered on the pillow. Ramon made a mark on the form. Room 19 secure, he said. You good? I'm good, Lena answered. They moved on. The actual restraint check came a few minutes later. Lena went alone. By protocol, that part was the nurse's responsibility. She opened the door, stepped inside, and froze. He wasn't on his back. His body was angled on the bed, twisted onto his side, facing the far wall. His left arm was bent up as if he'd tried to reach the rails. His right leg was pulled slightly inward. Every restraint remained in exactly the same position she documented. No extra slack, no stretched leather, no torn fabric. There was no way to reconcile the two realities. You didn't bring your friend this time, Carter said quietly, eyes still on the wall. You moved, Lena said, between rounds. You keep saying that like it's a crime, he replied. Maybe you should ask why the camera insists I don't. She checked his skin, her fingers colder than usual. How did you do it? She asked finally. I didn't, he said. That's the part that bothers you, isn't it? She marked the log. 2318 position changed. Restraints intact, skin intact, patient calm. For a second, her pen hovered over the page, wanting to write more. She didn't. Around midnight, the unit shifted into its true night mode. Lights dimmed another notch. TV volumes lowered. Medication carts parked and plugged into outlets. The background noise of the day evaporated, leaving only the heartbeat of the building. Vents, distant doors, the occasional raised voice. The charge nurse redistributed assignments for post-midnight staffing. Camera observation counts as 1-to-1 for 19 after 12, she said. We don't have the bodies to sit on him in person all night. So we're trusting the feed over what we see? Lena asked before she could stop herself. The charge nurse gave her a long look. We're trusting the policy, she said. You stick to your checks. Tech watches the monitor. If anything looks off, we respond. That's how it's done. At 007, Lena went back to the monitor room. Just camp out here, the tech muttered. You'll save yourself a lot of walking. On the screen, room 19 showed Carter lying still, breathing slowly, eyes closed. Can you switch to live and then replay instantly? She asked. Yeah, the tech said. Why? Because I want to see what happens if I go in while you're watching. She waited until the clock at the top of the monitor hit 010. Start the recording, she said. Mark the time. He hit a few keys. Recording. 010. Room 19 live. Lena left the monitor room and walked straight down the hall, counting her steps, refusing to blink. She reached room 19 in under 30 seconds. At the window, Carter was on his side again, facing the door, eyes open. You brought someone else now, he said softly. Good. More witnesses. She ignored him, opened the door, and stepped inside just enough to see his whole body clearly without crossing the room. No question. His position was different from what she'd seen on the screen moments ago. Don't move, she said. I haven't, he answered. She closed the door again and went straight back to the monitor room, heart racing. Rewind those 30 seconds, she told the tech. Play from when I left. He scrubbed back and hit play. On the screen, the hallway camera showed her walking away from the monitor room toward the red corridor. So far, so good. The perspective switched to room 19's internal camera. It showed Carter on his back. The door opened. Lena stepped in. On the recording, she stood at the doorway, looking at him, saying something. But Carter never moved. He stayed flat, restrained, unchanged. On the actual memory in her head, she had seen him on his side, eyes locked on hers. That's not what I saw, Lena whispered. That's what the system saw, the tech said quietly. She leaned closer to the screen. As she watched, for the briefest flicker, no more than a single frame, Carter's head on the recording turned toward the camera, eyes open, staring directly into the lens. Then the frame snapped back to him on his back, eyes closed. "Did you see that?" Lena asked. "Yeah," the tech said. "And no, I'm not filing another ticket with IT. They'll just blame the software and send us a memo." At 1 o'clock, one of the lower-risk patients on the unit began to escalate. Yelling, banging, demanding to talk to a doctor right now. It took 2 nurses, a tech, and a PRN to settle him. For the first time in hours, Room 19 wasn't at the center of Lena's attention. She helped restrain the agitated patient in Room 10, documented the intervention, waited for his breathing to slow. By the time she stepped back into the corridor, 20 minutes had passed. The charge nurse met her eyes across the hall. "Did you do your check on 19? She asked. "I got pulled into 10 with you," Lena said. "I was going to go there next." "Go now," the charge nurse replied, "and take Ramon with you, just in case." They walked together to Room 19. The door was closed. The light above it was on. The hallway felt colder here. Lena peered through the window. For the first time that night, the bed was empty. The restraints lay open, neatly folded at the sides as if someone had deliberately undone them and set them aside. For a heartbeat, every muscle in her body went cold. "We didn't clear his restraints," Ramon said, voice low. "I didn't clear his restraints." "The order hasn't changed," Lena said. "There's no discontinuation. He should be in 4-point until psychiatrist review." She keyed in the code and pushed the door open, her throat dry. The room looked wrong in a way she couldn't name. The bed? Empty. The restraints? Unbuckled, fabric laid flat. The far corner. Carter was sitting calmly on the floor, back against the wall, arms draped over his knees as if he'd chosen the position carefully. His wrists and ankles still bore the faint impressions of the straps that should have been binding him. He smiled pleasantly when they entered. "I thought you'd never come," he said. "I've been waiting for you to write your incident report." Ramon swore under his breath. "How did you get out?" Lena asked, already knowing the answer wouldn't make sense. "I didn't," Carter said. "Someone else did." He tilted his head toward the ceiling. For a brief, disorienting moment, Lena could swear she heard something in the vents above them. Like a light scraping, a whisper dragged along metal, moving away toward the rest of the unit. Ramon stepped toward him, reaching for his radio. "We need security and the charge nurse in 19, he said. "Now, patients out of restraints." Carter's eyes stayed on Lena. "You felt it too, didn't you?" he asked softly. "The moment the room changed. The moment I wasn't the one you were locking down anymore." She didn't answer, because for the first time that night, she had the terrible sense that whatever made Carter different wasn't just inside his head, and it might not be interested in staying only inside Room 19. Security responded fast. Heavy boots, radios crackling, the sound of keys and holsters. 2 guards appeared in the doorway of Room 19, hands hovering near their belts out of habit, not yet drawing anything. "He's supposed to be in 4-point, the charge nurse said, tight and controlled. "Orders still active. We did not discontinue restraints." "And yet," Carter said pleasantly from the floor, "here we are." They put him back in the bed. It took 3 people to do it, Ramon on one arm, a guard on the other, Lena keeping distance but ready with the release clips. Carter didn't fight. He moved when they moved him, compliant, almost helpful. His body was heavy and solid, exactly as strong as a grown man should be. The restraints clicked back into place. Wrists, ankles, snug, checked twice. "You left the bed empty," one guard muttered. "You sure he didn't talk you into undoing him?" "We just walked in," Lena said flatly. "He was already out." The guard didn't argue out loud, but his eyes said, "That's not going to sound good in writing." The charge nurse stood at the foot of the bed. "From now until shift change," she said, "someone is physically outside this door at all times. Camera observation is not enough. Lena, you're not to enter 19 alone again tonight. You understand?" "I understand," Lena replied. As they left, Carter spoke again. "You're going to blame each other," he said lightly. "And the cameras, and the paperwork." No one ever blames the gaps. Lena paused in the doorway. What gaps? She asked. The empty seconds, he answered. The frames between what you see and what the system saves. That's where things like me learn to walk. The rest of the night did not calm down.